Hey everyone, I am at Palos Verdes solo dive for some white sea bass. Conditions look pretty good. I'm glad to be out here, give it a shot. A lot been caught this season. Let's see how it goes. Let's get in the water.
This dive, it just wasn't worth it. This was the dumbest dive I've done in my entire spearfishing career or span I've been doing it over the past 8+ years. And I'll explain why. Into the reasoning, a little bit of color here before I dive in. White sea bass have been really good this year from other spearfishing reports. So I was really excited and I was really stoked to think this is the season I finally catch one of my own. And surf was not that great for the season so far, for shore divers at least. And I saw an opportunity to go out and dive. The swells in Palos Verdes finally died down to about a foot and a half or so. You'll see in this clip here. And I was just really excited to be out there and potentially catch my first white sea bass. So with that being said, I hit the water and I was super excited to catch some white sea bass because this year, apparently a lot of people have been catching them. So the visibility was about 5 to 7 feet, surf being about foot and a half. And winds have been relatively mild leading up to this dive. So super excited, very promising. And though the visibility wasn't that great, if you've watched any white sea bass hunting videos, a lot of them, they're catching them in a lot of haze. So I was like, this is perfect conditions. I'm feeling okay. I didn't really get enough sleep, not only the night before, but the couple nights before. And this plays into a factor of why this is the dumbest decision. And I wasn't eating the best. I was eating a lot of junk food and I was pretty stressed out during this, leading up to this dive, just with life going on. So leading up to the dive, went into the water, super excited, felt pretty good overall given the circumstances. And I set up to go into my first warm-up dive, as I usually do, shallower, just to get the air bubbles out of my suit, to equalize, just get my body used to the water. So I take the first dive in about 15 feet of water and I do my normal equalizing on the way down, feeling pretty good overall. I hit about 15 feet or so and I feel the equalization seems to have worked. However, on my left side of my eye, I felt an excessive amount of pressure. So I was like, oh, that's weird. I felt this kind of before, and usually it ties to equalizing, not being able to do that correctly. So I go up to the surface, I blow through my nose a couple times at the surface, try to clear that out, and I go up about my merry way, further and further into the kelp, looking for that ghost fish. And as I'm going down the second time, I notice that equalizing, I'm hearing them clear, hearing my ears clear, and I'm feeling the pressure release. However, that left side, that left eye keeps feeling an intense pressure, and it's only getting worse. At this point, it's compounding on the pain that I felt, that kind of pressure I felt before. From my experience, usually you clear your sinuses, you try to release that pressure from the back area in through, like maybe your nose is clogged. So I pull up my mask, you can see this footage here, and I try to blow out my nose and try to clear the airway between going into my nose. I do that and nothing's working. It's still painful. And what I should have done at this point is realized this is not clearing. This is just not, it's just a wash of a dive for safety purposes. And also I was diving solo, so I should be heading back. And that's what I should have done, but my judgment was clouded from all the white sea bass I've been seeing this season. So I stupidly just kept going out there. I wasn't diving as much, but I stayed at the top hovering. But I don't know what I was thinking because, you know, even if I speared a white sea bass, I would still probably have to go down and get it, and that would be a huge problem. So in hindsight, I'm glad I didn't catch one. I mean, that's no surprise for this video, but essentially I just kept trying to push and I left the water and I felt the pressure, just a lot of pain at this point, and my tear ducts were pretty active on the left hand side. And so I go back, drive home, clear my gear, and I'm just normally if I feel something similar to this in the past, definitely not to this extent, it clears after a couple hours, but usually it has to do with me pushing too hard when I'm diving. But in this case, I was doing my normal thing, felt it early in like 15 feet of water. So I was imagining, I knew it couldn't be any sort of like decompression sickness or anything super serious, I thought. So I said, okay, I'm gonna let it rest a little bit. But this headache is starting to be a migraine just on the left side of my face. So I was a little concerned. And the next day, I just wake up throbbing pain. I go to urgent care because I'm actually kind of worried from the research I'm doing that if I injure, like damage my eye of some sort, and if anyone has been on like WebMD or something similar, I'm just thinking worst case scenarios every time I see these symptoms. So I go to urgent care, and essentially I tell the doctor what's going on. I have a lot of pain in my left eye. I have like a migraine just on the left side temple area, and I've tried to escape air. Like I was thinking maybe there's some trapped air back there. What the doctor does is actually check my cornea, sees if there's any cornea damage, and if there's any sort of like damage to my eye using this like ultraviolet scanner. Great news, no long-term damage, which is good. That was what I was mainly worried about. But the question still was out there, like why is the pain so extreme? And they talked to an eye specialist, and the eye specialist actually goes out fishing and has a boat. And from the symptoms he described, that it couldn't be decompression sickness, which I was pretty sure it wasn't, but that was confirming. And he thought maybe there's some built up pressure back there. So I was actually prescribed prednisone and Mucinex, yeah, those two. The idea was to open up my sinuses, and whatever, hopefully the pressure back there would release, and it did. So after a day, I actually moved my jaw around, did yawning, try not to decompress too hard with my nose, because I noticed that was hurting. But the next day, about 8 hours after taking the medication, I felt like a pop and a release through my left ear. So my hypothesis, I am not a medical professional, this is not medical advice, but my hypothesis was that there was some built up pressure back there that finally released. And I attribute this problem mainly to the lack of sleep, the poor choice in food, and yeah, mainly those two. I know divers talk about it all the time, but especially when you're just really hyped up on a season like white sea bass, you see great conditions, and you've just been deprived of diving just due to conditions. I'm just telling you, it's not worth it. This took me out for about 3 days, and it took me out as in I was just in a constant headache. Work was hard, which made everything else hard. And yeah, even if diving conditions were worth diving, I lost 3 days. So I just let this be a lesson. Obviously it was just a dumb choice. A lot of people were panicked and worried for me, which I appreciated, but it was just a dumb choice. If you're ever in some sort of situation like that, where you feel some sort of pressure that's not releasing, or any other potential injury that could arise from diving while you're in the water, even if the conditions are great, it's just not worth it. The fish will still be there. There's always another day. You don't want to be ruining not only your fishing, but anything else you have to do in your day-to-day just because of your excitement for a season. So I just hope this message gets relayed to anyone watching here. It's just not worth it. Be safe. Try to get a dive buddy. Don't be like me. I'm gonna be honest, and I don't dive with dive buddies all the time, but I would say like 98% of the time I do. But I was just too stoked for white sea bass, and again, this adds to the dumb decisions. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you learned something. But that's one thing that I definitely learned the hard way. Don't dive. Just stop diving. Just go back. It's not worth it. But thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.